Hello and welcome for another episode of this season of Try This On with Sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kirstin Lauritzen. And today I was just talking with my producer here, Chris, and we were talking about what I should talk about today because I don't have a guest for this episode. And I was thinking about, telling you my story in the same kind of format of how we've interviewed many of the different athletes on this podcast over the last several weeks. And then I also was thinking about maybe talking about the melding and what is like functional medicine and how does that actually, work with sports. And then Chris suggested that maybe I talk about ways to get over the humps because January and February are some of the most difficult months to get motivated, to spend time outside because the weather is usually not very good for us here in the Northern hemispheres. And also, it's also hard, I think, sometimes to get some motivation and some progress after the holidays. I know that New Year's resolutions are always so big and so many people join gyms and they do all these things and maybe they have a little bit of effort because of or they have a little bit of motivation because of their, New Year's resolution. And so, you're going to the gym for a couple weeks, or maybe you've decided that this is the year that you're going to sign up for a triathlon, or maybe this is the year that you're going to do, something else with, you're going to focus on, who knows, right? This is the year that you're going to, you can set any goal you want with the new year. But there's always a time when like that initial excitement of signing up for something starts to kind of go away. Just awful weather where you just don't really have the motivation to want to go outside. Like we know that this is one of my biggest challenges in sports. So we thought we would just talk about that today and what I'll give you some of the ways that some of the things that have worked well for me as far as getting over the difficulties of training, particularly with triathlon, of training on your own. And what are some of the things that you can do to try to get yourself motivated, or what are some of the things that you can kind of work on to try to get that training done, and why it's important, right, to get that training done. And the irony of this is not lost on me because this last week I had a really big challenge with getting my workouts done as far as on my office days. So my typical in-office days are on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and those days sometimes get hijacked by so many things for patient care. And then every once in a while, I just have a really bad week and I don't get my training in on those days. And it just so happened that those were the 2 days that were big days for my cycling side of things. It's also not lost on me either that it's been an interesting process of going through all these different phases of races, and I've almost treated them like training blocks in a sense. And each time we focused on something a little bit different. So for example, my main focus was to complete the Ironman last year. And then after that, it was dealing with the repercussions of some of the fallout of that race. But then once we got past August and we're headed into doing, it was for La Quinta for December's race, I decided I was going to focus a ton on swimming. And so I put a lot of my intention, right, and focus on swimming, which was great because my swimming improved and then my cycling it actually improved as well, but it sort of just stayed right where it was at. I didn't really lose any progress on that. And I actually had an even better time on that bike as well. But my running kind of fell to the side a little bit. And so then what we decided was for this round, for my May, so Victoria is at the end of May, is 70.3. We decided that I was going to do my best to try to get all of my run sessions in this round. And it's interesting because I'm noticing that now this may just be a weird pattern from this week, but it just seems like my cycling is not quite keeping up with me. And it's almost as if there's just, so, okay, I'm not getting too lost in the weeds here, but this is a very fun like metaphor or picture that I've always thought is really interesting. So, because I learned it in chiropractic school, but I want you to picture an iceberg, right? And a bunch of penguins on it. one of the things that my professor in chiropractic school said is that, so picture all of your classes being a penguin, or all of your responsibilities or things that you have to do or are focusing on are a penguin, right? And there's only so many penguins that fit on that iceberg, right? So, and also some of those penguins are going to take higher priority certain times than others. So in the perspective of chiropractic school, or anybody that's in college or going to school or whatever, or it could be your job and different projects and things like that. If you have, a certain exam coming up for anatomy and physiology, or a paper that you're writing for English, right? Like those penguins that week are going to take much more priority over biology, because biology doesn't have a whole ton going on. The reason why she said that is because at some point, like if there's too many penguins, they just start to kind of like fall off. And I think I always keep that in perspective as far as like, okay, if it feels like some penguins are starting to fall off the iceberg, then we need to step back and kind of reprioritize what we're doing. And I find that to be also very common with a theme of my triathlon training is that sometimes it just seems like there's too many penguins on the iceberg, and then they start to fall off when I can't quite do all the things that I need to do. So, and I think that maybe there's many other people who can relate to that as well, because a lot of the times athletes tend to focus a lot on the swim, bike, run, but then strength training kind of gets put off to the side. And part of it is because maybe there's not a lot of confidence in strength training. And part of it might also be that maybe you don't have the gear, or maybe you just don't really know what to do. Those are all things that you're going to instantly probably not prioritize that as high as some of the other disciplines, right? But at the same time, that's a very important penguin, right? That's a very important part of training, so that you try your best to not get injured, right? That's like an injury prevention thing, but it's also a get stronger. So it's a very efficient way to do it as well, with less impact on your joints. So there's that, I think but that penguin, right, can be kind of just put off to the side. It's not a top priority. So I give you that. I want you to, because part of this too is like, if you are, okay, let me take a step back here because I'm getting kind of lost in the weeds. But the reason why I say that, give you that penguin like metaphor or picture or whatever, is because part of, if you are noticing that you are having challenges with something, right, in your training, there's part of it is awareness. And it might just be that there's just too many things, too many penguins on the iceberg. And maybe you just need to kind of reprioritize, right? I think that's another really good one as well to picture or to put into place, like where nutrition and food and eating usually ends up in this as well, is like as soon as you're training and then you have a job, and then if you also have a family or relationship or friends on top of this, right? Like there's not a whole lot of time in the day for all of those things. Plus, if you're going to be spending an hour and a half, 2 hours in the kitchen, like where does all of that fit in, right? And then so nutrition tends to kind of go by the wayside, because what you want is something that's super fast and easy. So it's another challenge I think that we tend to face when it comes to just sport in general, but also triathlon, is that, a lot of our triathlon training it takes time. It takes a lot of time. So how do you put all of those pieces, into your life and make it easy? And part of it is awareness, right? It's looking at what are all of those penguins that we need to be keeping track of, and which ones do we need to be placing a good amount of priority in? And then how do we schedule that in without necessarily losing a ton of the other penguins? They also talk about that too, with like triathlons and divorce, and triathlons and losing your friends, and how do you manage all of these things? Because triathlon training can be very, very time consuming. And so part of it again is watching those priorities. So I hope that penguin example works well for you if you're struggling with any of this. But as I'm literally looking out the window right now, it's raining. So how do you overcome some of these challenges or these humps that you have to do with weather? Or if you are so tired and you just don't want to go out to train, or you've been thinking, this is a big one. If you've been thinking about that workout all day and you still are just so unmotivated, you're like, okay, I'm going to go out for that run. Okay, I'm going to go out for that run. I'm going to go out for that run. And it's like 6 p.m. at night. I just did this the other day, but it's like 6 p.m. and you should be eating dinner, but you've got to go out and get that run done. Do you choose to go out and get the run done, or do you choose to just let it go and go into the next day and try again? I think there's a couple of things to keep in mind if that is the case. But part of it too is probably being super aware of the situation as well, because I think we can get lost in the psychological aspect of all of this and just be like, we just get lost in our thoughts and in our head. So sometimes having a couple of tools, if you recognize that that's an issue and that you are missing certain workouts, or just it's constantly becoming one of those, like, I don't want to go outside because the rain's bad and I'm not getting my workouts done. Or if it's constant, or if it's, it's another situation of, well, I just keep kind of missing workouts because of who knows, whatever reason. That hopefully these are tips that will be helpful. I also, one of my other goals as well was consistency this round, and my consistency hasn't necessarily improved by any means, which again, I really do think is partially because of the Penguins. I have so many priorities right now that it's hard to do them all. That being said, that's not me making an excuse. It's just me being aware of the fact that, as things get busier, especially in my business, things in my personal life tend to not be quite as prioritized, but keeping some sort of balance is really key, as I know that a lot of triathletes are also business owners. So we just have this tendency to want to perform at a high level, but it takes a lot of our time. So, okay. I'm trying to think of some of the other things that are challenges, like, oh, this is a good one. So thinking about if you are not in your rhythm, right? I think one of the things that I really loved from training for the Coeur d'Alene Ironman last year was that there was a point there where I felt like everything that I was doing, like, it was easy in a sense. It wasn't easy workouts wise, but like I had a routine, right? I expected my 3 to 4 hour workouts on the weekends, and I had it was in the flow almost. And I was able to, it just felt like getting those workouts done was super easy. But ever since then, it's actually felt like actually setting the time aside to do the workouts has not been as easy. So, but I'm still doing it, right? Like I understand what it feels like when nothing feels right and you feel out of rhythm and it's just not clicking. That's another like situation that I definitely experience a lot. And, it's just a challenge when you also know what that feels like, right? To be training and feeling like everything's flowing. You're like in the flow in the sense of training yeah, it's just, it's hard when you're kind of out of that balance or out of that rhythm or routine. And that's another challenge. And I'll talk about what I do to kind of, you just get it done, right? I think that's the biggest thing is you just have to do it. You just have to make it happen. And most of the time you feel a lot better once you actually get it done. But I do know what it's like. That's another one. Another one too, that could be a challenge is having cramps, or if you have other pains or little weird niggles, which is one that it's something I picked up from my coach, is what he calls it, is those little achy pains that show up that you don't really know what's causing them, but you just don't feel great. And you kind of wonder, is this something that I actually need to do something about? Or is this something I can kind of just train through? Or if you're just not feeling well because of periods or headaches or migraines, and what do you do in those scenarios? Do you still train? Do you not train? Do you give yourself a break, or do you just keep going? How do you get through that? Right. And I actually have I think this is a very great episode to be doing, because this last week I also had a migraine on Sunday. And then I actually had nausea and like repeated somewhat like migraines this whole week. And I actually still got like a huge portion of my training done. So I know what it's like to have challenges and still want to train and have these goals and want to succeed. So what we're going to do right after this is I'm going to talk about all of the ways that and just tips and tricks that I've collected over the last, several years, but also as being an athlete most of my life. I'm going to go over some of the things that I use to try to overcome some of these challenges. And we'll be right back right after this. So one of the top things that I've found to be the most effective is training with a friend when it comes to overcoming humps. I know that triathlon training in many ways is a very solo sport. And it is, but there's also a lot of opportunity for training with buddies and people. And this may not actually be fully in the way that you think. I've actually found a few friends. I was swimming with my master swim team. And just recently I switched over to just going to swim in the pool, because here we go. One of my challenges was that it's very, very difficult for me to get up at 4:30 in the morning to swim from 5 to 6. It does feel good when you're done because you're up, you're ready to go for the day. But what I recognize is just that it's just early, and it's hard for me with the rest of my day and my routine to get up that early because I have to go to bed so early in the evening. Now, for some other people, that's not a challenge, right? But again, it's awareness. It's being aware of what your specific patterns are and making a lot of this stuff fit in well for you. And that may be one of the reasons why you're not feeling in rhythm, right? It's just that you're trying to force something that's just really not fitting in with your just way that you do life. And that's okay, right? That's the point, is to figure out what you need to do specifically for you. So what I've been doing is I'm going now just to swim on my own, and my coach is, putting in workouts. And what's also really cool about that is that the similar workouts from a couple of years ago, it would have been, it was the summer of 2020 when I was driving 45 minutes to go to an outdoor pool. I was not able to finish these like 2,000, 2,200 yard workouts in an hour. And now I finish them in like 30 to 40 minutes, depending. That's a really, really cool feeling. That seeing that progress over a couple of years. And also I now have a friend who I meet on some of the days, that it's great. She keeps me going and making sure that I'm showing up that day. And I think that's one of the benefits of having friends do different things with you and incorporating friends into some of your routine, into some of your training, just simply because having that friend there that is expecting you to be there will get you to go. Like, most people won't cancel. Now, there are some friends that if you do talk to them and say like, hey, I'm just not feeling well, they may just let you off the hook. You want the friend, if you can find them, that's like, oh, absolutely not, I'm picking you up and we're going. So I think there's 2 points in that. Number one, find a friend, find a buddy that's into this with you, that will keep you accountable and make sure that you show up. And also it's just nice sometimes to have a buddy, go biking with them, or go running. If there's been something that you've been challenged to get those workouts done, find a friend. Now, there's another side of that you may not have thought of. If you have a treadmill, or if you have an indoor trainer, bike trainer, and you have Zwift, one of the things you can also do is you can meet friends online and you can bike or run with them as well. So there's also that aspect. And if you're familiar with some of the online platforms, there's a platform called Discord that is mostly used, I think, by the video game community. And it's part of how friends talk to each other. But You can also do that on the bike as well. You can get that all set up, that tech set up, and then your friend both of you can be training inside, but you can be chatting with each other over Discord, which is kind of cool. It's all over the internet. And then you still get that accountability. You still get that kind of buddy sort of feeling. If you're, maybe your friend is across the country from you, or, maybe it's just really awful weather and neither of you want to go outside. So there's that. But the other lesson in that too is just know yourself and know what sort of patterns are and what just fits really well for you. If it feels like you're fighting something a ton, maybe it's worth taking a step back and looking at that from just a different perspective. The second thing is, if you're really struggling and you're just not getting those certain workouts in and all of that kind of stuff, maybe what we need to do is take a step back and inject some fun into your routine, right? I think the instant that we stop having fun or we stop enjoying what we're doing, that's when things start to get more and more challenging. I know that I definitely enjoy doing a lot more of that training when the weather's nice. Like we just had a very, very gorgeous weekend. And what do you think? I got all my training done because I wanted to be outside. But when the weather's not good, and then also if you've lost that kind of enjoyment, then maybe what we just need to do is take a step back and find some things that you do enjoy and just put those in for some time being and mix everything in a little bit and just kind of inject that fun again. Because that's work. I think training and working out should be fun in some ways. Like it's going to be hard, and especially triathlon training can be very mundane. And I do understand that. But at the same time, like I do still think that it should have some sort of enjoyment, right? If it's just draining you, you're not going to end up doing it, and you're not going to end up doing it for the long haul. So do what you got to do to have some fun. Maybe it's going to a spin class periodically, so you're around some people and some loud music, or maybe it's going to a group swim, or maybe it's just, I don't know, going to like a weightlifting class with like a bunch of different people there. There's so many different things that you can do that still give you that training, but just in a different way, right? Another one, if you're not feeling well, so as I kind of discussed, like if you're just dealing with cramps, like do you keep going? If you're dealing with periods or as I mentioned, like migraines or nausea, where you just don't feel good, or you're just dealing with a bunch of fatigue, part of that might be that you just want to take a step back and see if first off, you're eating enough food in your day to day to support the training, because sometimes that's one of the reasons why we get those sort of like niggles and pains and just those overall just not feeling well type of symptoms. But if you are eating well, which is what my case was this last week, if you're eating enough and eating well, then you may just want to like look at from the inflammation perspective. And you can go back to several episodes that I've done on inflammation and different things that you can troubleshoot from that perspective. But getting enough sleep is a really, really big one. Prioritize some nutrition. Make sure that you are, you can also do something like an omega-3 or something like that can help to, like a fish oil of some type, that can really help to reduce some of that inflammation. Cuts off a lot of the markers of the reasons why we get inflammation. It can actually turn it off. Those are some things you can do if like periods and cramps and then migraines and all those sorts of things are things that you deal with on a routine basis. Then it might be worth looking a little bit further into what's causing them. But if it's just like a one-time thing and you're just not feeling motivated, or you're just not feeling well in general, then one of the things that I do when I don't feel very good is, number one, if I can find a friend to go out with, I do it. So like, I didn't feel super great on Sunday, but I really wanted to go out and train and run and get outside. And my husband was like, well, I'll go with you. And I was like, fabulous, and it turned out to be a really, really great run. It was a nice time outside, and we got some good time together. And so that's one thing. If I'm by myself though, part of it is you just gotta like you just gotta take the first couple steps, right? Like get out the door, put your running gear on or your bike gear on. And as you're doing some things, milling around the house, like you're in that bike gear or you're in that run gear, you're ready to go, make it happen. Now, if this is a consistent thing that keeps happening, maybe what we need to do is schedule that time in. So like from 5 to 6, I am keeping this one, and this is the time that I am setting aside for myself, and this is going to happen. Actually, the Nikki Peterson, the mountain biker that we had on several episodes ago, she said that one of the things that works really well for her is she keeps like 12 to 3 open for her training, and she turns off all of her stuff so she doesn't get any notifications. She can't get distracted. She can't get a phone call, and she just dedicates that time for herself so that she can get her training done, because, and actually I think she just got accepted into a new position. So congratulations to her. But there's so many different things that you can do. It's just sometimes you need to set aside that time and prioritize that time. Make sure that is it's the same thing as like if you were going to go to your kids' baseball game and or practice or whatever, and like that time is that time, and we're not going to over schedule or put something over that time. It's the same thing for you. So sometimes it's just figuring that out and setting that as a priority. The other one is, if you miss a day of training, I learned this actually from James Clear, his book, Atomic Habits. He said that if you miss one day, that's one thing, but the professionals never miss 2 days in a row. There are some exceptions to that, like if you're sick, but if you are just missing a training day, or if you're missing something, one day, don't miss it again. Don't miss the second day. Make sure you get out there and do it. Now, if you've missed 2 days in a row, now we need to start, maybe going back to some of those things. Maybe we need to find a friend. Maybe we need to inject some fun into this, or maybe we need to kind of reevaluate what our priorities are and what we want to do. But the thing is that motivation is you're not always going to be motivated. You're not. I think what needs to motivate us in many ways is, first off, like what I use is visualizing what it's going to feel like on race day. If I miss this workout, it's one more tick in the box that's like, oh, the race day could be a little bit rough. If you continue to miss these swim workouts, or if you continue to miss these bike workouts or these run workouts, like those are reflected on race day 100%. Now, especially if it's a continuous thing, is one time in 1 week really going to be that big of a deal? No. But if you are consistently missing those, like I can tell you from experience, it does matter. So that's my one thing. The other thing is, that was kind of on a macro scale of looking at the race at the end, but from a micro scale, if you're just thinking about day to day, what I visualize is what it's going to feel like at the end when I get it done. And almost always, I feel better, and I have that sense of achievement. I feel like I've accomplished something for the day. And, you feel like you've ticked that box for the day. And that is a mind, like one thing that you can always tune into is picture what that feeling feels like when you're struggling to get a workout done, or if you've just thought about it and it's delayed in the day, and now it's 6 or 7 p.m. and you still haven't gotten your workout done, and it's dinner time and, all the things. Picture what it feels like to actually get that workout done. And sometimes that can be a really great motivator to get you on that bike or to get you out on that run. And the last thing that I wanted to say on that was, it was a sense of accomplishment. I think that's everything that I was thinking of. Yeah. So I hope that was helpful. I mean, I think that the big piece of it is that there's always going to be challenges, right? There's always daily struggles. We're always kind of in that daily grind of things. And sometimes it's just hard. Honestly, I mean, I think that's a part of triathlon, right? It's like race days are hard, but sometimes just getting the training in is hard, especially if you don't live in an environment that really facilitates that. Like it makes sense why a lot of endurance athletes and a lot of people live in like Colorado and like some of those places where the weather is like generally good all the time. It makes sense why they move to places like that, because it's just easier. It takes some of that challenge out. But for those of us that don't, for those of us that live in places where it's cold, sometimes you just got to like make it happen. And if you're not making it happen, then maybe we need to find a friend. And I think that's a big one that I've found to be the most helpful, is finding friends that will do it with you. And that's probably where I think I've kind of exhausted all of the different things. So I think we'll end this episode now. So thank you so much for listening. Make sure to follow Wisp Sports on all social media channels, and make sure to share this episode with anyone you think may love it. You know what would be awesome is if you've actually had a time where, if you have a tool or if you have something that you do that helps you get over some of these humps, I would love it if you would come and share that with us over on social media. You can do that by over on Wisp Sports, and you can message us there, or you can follow me and at Dr. Kirstin on Facebook and Instagram, and you can message me as well with some of the things that you use to help you get over some of those daily grind struggles and those challenges with different seasons. You can also find me at drkirstin.com. And if you'd like to reach us with any comments or questions, you can also email us at info@wispsports.com. All right. Well, thank you for listening, and I will be back next week, hopefully with a guest. All right. Take care.